As a reminder, we're going to have, I think, quite a few people wanting to talk about Stewart Street. So hopefully we can get through the rest of the agenda pretty quickly. But
all right, that sounds good. And Todd, our next meeting is on the 7th, correct? Of December?
Yeah, 3 weeks. We skip a week.
3 weeks.
Thanksgiving.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Awesome. Yep. Thanks.
All right. Here we go.
Recording in progress.
Floor is yours, Mr. Chair.
All right, good morning, everybody. So I will call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearing for November 16th, 2023. Mr. Liming, would you please take the roll call?
Would the representative from the Public Works Department please state his or her name for the record?
Yasha Franklin Hodge.
Property Management Department? One more time, Joe. Couldn't hear you.
Joseph Callahan.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Transportation?
Amy Gordon.
Inspectional Services?
Brian Ronan.
Water and Sewer Commission?
Denise Devlin.
And Commission for Persons with Disabilities?
Sarah Leon.
Full quorum.
All right, thank you very much, Todd. Before we jump onto the agenda, I'll just say I know that there's a number of members of the public who are here to testify on some of the items on the agenda today. Todd, do you want to give just kind of the overview of how that works and what folks should expect if they want to speak on any item today?
Sure. So if at any point you wish to ask questions or add testimony to any particular project, we ask that you use the raised hand function through, I believe it's the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. We do ask that you keep it as brief as you can, and these hearings are meant to be a place for you to, like I said, ask questions or offer a bit of testimony, though we do prefer that it not end up being a back and forth conversation between members of the public and the project. You're meant to just put your comments on the record. So with that in mind, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Todd. And the one thing I would just add to that is, we are going to go through our agenda in order, and typically for each item, we have a brief presenter moment, or a brief opportunity for the proponents to present what they're doing. The PIC commission members then get a chance to ask questions and have some back and forth. And then we will open it up for public comment. So when an agenda item comes up that you want to comment on, you can hit the raise hand function, and we will call on you when we get to that point in the process. All right, so with that, our first order of business today is the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on November 2nd, 2023. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 2nd, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. On to our next item, public hearing continued number 1 on a petition by Vicinity Energy Boston Incorporated for a grant of location to install a steam distribution main and associated infrastructure within the following public ways in Boston proper: Brookline Avenue, generally between Lansdowne Street and Overland Street, Lansdowne Street at Brookline Avenue. This was new business on September 7th and had public hearings on September 21st, October 5th, October 19th, and November 2nd. As shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Grant of Location Plan, Brookline Avenue, Vicinity Fenway Steam Line Extension Phase 2, 5 sheets dated September 14th, 2023. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and let us know how you'd like to proceed on this item today.
Yes, good morning. This is Matt Fallon from Vicinity Energy. We would respectfully request a continuance until December 7th, 2023.
All right, that is fine with us. Do I hear a motion to continue public hearing continued number 1?
I'll make a motion to continue public hearing continued item number 1 is read into the record by the chair to December 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. On to public hearing number 1 on a joint petition by 88 NOAA LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the vertical discontinuance of a portion of Anthony Rip Valenti Way, Public Way, Boston proper, located on its northwesterly side, southwest of North Washington Street, vertically above the grade of the sidewalk. This was new business on November 2nd, as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Discontinuance Plan, Vertical Anthony Rip Valenti Way, 88 North Washington Street, Boston, one sheet dated June 6, 2023. Would the proponents please introduce themselves, their affiliations, give us a very brief reintroduction to the action being proposed here, and then we'll open it up for questions from the commission.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Attorney Matt Eckel with Fletcher Tilton, with the business address of 100 Franklin Street in Boston. Also on from the development team is Scott Kirkwood. As mentioned, we're here this morning on a joint petition from 88 NOAA LLC and MassDOT seeking a vertical discontinuance along Anthony Rip Valenti Way, which is adjacent to the property known as 88 North Washington Street. The property itself sits at the corner of North Washington Street and Valenti Way, as you can see in the rendering depicted on the screen. We did appear at a new business hearing on November 2nd. There have not been any changes to the plans, and we are proceeding today, hoping for the commission's approval. As a brief reminder, this project went through the BPDA Article 80 small project review process and received approvals by the Boston Zoning Board of Appeal. The lot itself contains 2,188 square feet, and it was approved as a boutique hotel, which you see on the screen there. The hotel will contain a lobby, lounge, and building services on the ground level and hotel rooms on floors 2 through 8. In terms of the discontinuance area we're seeking, you can see it outlined here in the blue shaded lines. The discontinuance area is proposed to start at the 2nd floor, approximately 15 feet above the sidewalk, and extend approximately 74 feet to the top of the 8th floor. Overall, the discontinuance area contains approximately 274 square feet and 20,207 cubic feet. One other point of note for the commission, as part of our application submission package, we did include requests to waive the PIC discontinuance fee, as if we are approved by the commission, we'll be going through a full MassDOT land disposition process and obviously paying them fair market value to discontinue it. So we respectfully request the commission does consider that request as well. With that, I'll pause and take any questions the commission may have.
Commissioners, questions? Right, hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
Just one more time, I'll remind the public, if you wish to ask questions or add testimony, please use the raised hand function. I do not see any at this time, so I think we're all set.
All right. I will say we can move ahead with the item here. The question of fees we can probably finalize offline, but I think we're very open to that conversation. So this will just be about the discontinuance itself. Do I hear a motion to approve public hearing number 1?
I'll make a motion to approve a joint petition by 88 NOWA LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the vertical discontinuance of a portion of Anthony Rip Valenti Way as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, that concludes our public hearings for today. On to new business, and we'll start with new business item number 1, which I think is making its second appearance in the new business agenda. 355 Bennington Street, Bremen Street, East Boston, pedestrian easement, specific repairs, sidewalk cafe license, earth retention license on a set of joint petitions by 413 to 419 Bremen Street LLC and Friends of Excel Academy Charter Schools Incorporated. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves and give us a brief reintroduction to this? I believe that this was new business last meeting, and due to technicality related to the advertising of the meeting, it is necessary for this to appear on the new business agenda again. Given that the commission has already reviewed the plans in detail at the last meeting, I think we can skip the highly detailed walkthrough, but a quick overview along with any changes or updates from the last new business appearance would be appreciated.
Yes, good morning all. Fred Keeler from Hancock Associates. With me on the call is Katie Cruz, my colleague at Hancock, Sean Sanger from Copley Wolf Design Group, and Brian Biesel from Howard Stein Hudson in the event that any other questions might come up. As you mentioned, this appeared before under new business a couple weeks ago. It's a redevelopment of 355 Bennington Street. It'll be our new residential building with 170 units in 5 levels. Above 1 level of parking. Parking is accessed from the driveway between Excel Academy and the site. There'll be about 7,000 square feet of retail space as well at street level. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Katie. The pedestrian easement plan, there's been no changes since our presentation. Under new business, we're picking up and matching into the existing pedestrian easement in front of the Excel Academy and carrying that over to the project site. And it necks down in width, but captures the proposed public sidewalk all the way over to Bennington Street as shown in red here on the plan. Sidewalk Cafe, we had some coordination meetings with PIC staff and BPDA and disabilities earlier this week. And we made a couple of minor adjustments. We've identified the handicap accessible seat and table area on the detail and added some standard details in the upper portion of the sheet showing how that area would be accessed and how it would comply with the ADA and MAAB accessibility requirements. So there was that minor change to the Sidewalk Cafe plan since our last presentation.
Fred, we also indicated that the dining partition will not extend into the 6-foot sidewalk or the 3-foot access aisle.
Yes, thank you, Katie. That's correct. We added a notation that the partition wouldn't impact the 3-foot accessible aisle or the 6-foot sidewalk. With regard to the specific repair plan, the commission had a couple of comments in our last presentation. One was regarding bicyclists traveling on Bennington Street and how they would get up onto the bike path. So to address that, we've widened that curb ramp at the corner from 5 feet to 8 feet. And the additional comment was with regard to the proposed trees in the multi-use path area between Excel Academy and the project. We coordinated with Sean at Copley Wolf Design and called for a new species rather than pin oaks. We're going with the Accolade elm, and if there's any questions regarding that, Sean can provide some input, but that tree is a more vertical, it has a canopy, but it has a more vertical growth rather than a wider canopy, so we think that'll work well and not be impacted by the future bus traffic. And then the last slide, if you can, Katie, deals with the earth retention. There's been no changes to this plan since our last new business presentation. With that, if the commission has any questions, the team is here to see if we can answer them.
Commissioners?
I just want to thank the team for meeting with myself as well as PIC staff to make adjustments to the cafe plan. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from Commission? Great, I'll just echo the thanks for the responsiveness on the questions and issues we raised last time around. PIC staff or members of the public?
Fred, apologies if I missed this, but could you speak just really briefly to your coordination with MassDOT regarding the approaches to the bridge and the on-ramps?
Yes, Todd. Thank you for pointing that out. Brian Biesel from Howard Stein Hudson has been in contact with MassDOT, and they indicated that they do not have any jurisdiction over what we're proposing at Bennington Street and Neptune Road. Their jurisdiction begins on the ramp down to 1A.
Yeah, hey everyone, Brian Mozell from Howard Sun Hudson. Yeah, sure, I had sent you the email to show you their response. Our TAPA plan actually extends a little further than this, so when that's being reviewed, you actually can see the on-ramp in conjunction with this, right? So it gives a more holistic approach, or a picture of the intersection, which is helpful. But you're right, their response was that they only own the on-ramp and that they don't own the intersection or the signal, and they don't have an issue with these pavement markings.
Yep, I appreciate you confirming that with them, and I was happy to see that. All right, seeing no other comments and no raised hands, will you be ready for your public hearing in 3 weeks on December 7th?
Yes, we will. Thank you.
All right, excellent. We'll see you back then.
Thank you.
On to our next item, new business number 2, 361 Center Street, Roxbury, specific repairs on a petition by 361 Center Street, LLC. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of what is being proposed with this project?
Hello, my name is Rebecca Schofield. I'm a developer at Penrose, and we're partnering with Heidelberg Task Force to preserve the facade of Blessed Sacrament and redevelop it as 55 units of affordable housing. Beach Engineering is also here. Chelsea will be presenting the slide deck. Just a quick kind of description of the project. This will be units within the existing building and then a new addition at the rear, as you can see in the render. And since we were designated a couple of years ago as the developer for this building, we've had countless meetings with the community, with city staff and officials, BPDA. We were awarded city funding last year to support the project and are currently in the state funding round and expect to hear next month about a funding award, which would let us continue to move towards closing and start construction by the end of 2024. So we're really excited about this project and made a ton of progress with the team and with the community. Grateful for the feedback that we've received from city staff to date and have incorporated their suggestions into the slide deck that Chelsea will share with you now.
Great, thank you. So this is the existing Blessed Sacrament Church located at 361 Center Street. We are proposing to keep the existing building and replace the addition in the back. For context, we're located on this block here between Jamaica Way and Columbus Avenue. The specific repairs that are proposed are a 7.5-foot concrete sidewalk with a porous paver strip. We have 2 existing trees that are being protected and some additional planting areas next to the existing trees. Most of the comments that we have received were related to protecting the trees and improvements to the soil around them. So we have sand-based structural soil around the planting areas and existing trees, as well as flexible porous paving over the back of the tree pit to help with the tree health. We also have bike racks in the porous paver strip, and we've coordinated to protect the existing street light as well within the planter at the request of the street lighting division. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Commissioners, questions, comments? Hearing none, PIC staff or members of the public?
All set on this.
All right, excellent. Will you be ready for your public hearing in 3 weeks on December 7th?
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Wonderful. Looking forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, on to our next item of business. New business 3, 201 Stewart Street, Church Street, Columbus Avenue, Elliott Street, Park Place, Boston proper, specific repairs, projection license, earth retention license on a set of petitions by 201 Stewart Street, owner LLC. The petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, walk us through what is being proposed and the specific actions you're looking for the PIC to take.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Ryan Gordon, project manager with Niche Engineering, and I'm also joined by Len Conlin from Project Ownership, Rich Kershaw from the CIM group from Project Ownership, Mike Flannery from Goulston and Stores, Carl Froschauer from Arcadis, the landscape architect for the project, Guy Busa from Howard Stein Hudson, the traffic engineer, Maria Gorsica from Haley and Aldrich, the geotechnical engineer, and Henry Celli from CBT Architects. And we're presenting temporary earth support, specific repairs, and projection licenses for the Motor Mart garage. And here in this image, you can see the existing garage building and the new residential tower that's proposed above that. To orient you to the site, we have Stewart Street to the south, Church Street to the west, Columbus Avenue and Elliott Street to the north, and Park Place to the east. Here are some photos of the existing garage building. You can see Stewart Street facing east, Columbus Avenue and Church Street facing east at the top, and then the intersection of Elliott Street and Columbus Avenue facing south at the bottom. You have Elliott Street facing east and Park Place facing north. So first I'll go over the temporary earth support. We are proposing on Columbus Avenue, Church Street, and Stewart Street. We have soldier piles and timber lagging to be installed to help support shallow excavations and to complete foundation work. This will be focused on the western half of the building, and the existing foundation will be braced. And at the end, temporary lateral support will be cut off and removed to a depth 6 feet below the sidewalk. And I want to allow for any questions related to, and Maria Gorsica from Haley and Aldrich is also here if you have any specific questions to that design.
I think we can keep moving through the presentation and we'll handle questions altogether.
Okay. All right, great. So now I'll get into specific repairs. On Stewart Street, we're proposing new sidewalks all around the building. On Stewart Street, we have new trees, permeable pavers, granite pavers. We have the existing driveway entrance that we're narrowing as much as we can to help support the garage entrance on that side of the building. We also have 7 groundwater recharge wells that we are proposing on the sidewalk for stormwater recharge to meet Boston Water and Sewer requirements. And we also have new streetlights, bike racks, benches along that side of the street. And we're maintaining the existing curb line on Stewart Street. On Church Street, we are bumping out the curb 6 feet, and we have new permeable pavers, new 8.5 to 9 foot cement concrete sidewalk. We have new landscape planter beds, new street lights, and we are teeing off the intersection at the corner with Columbus Avenue, which you can see over here. And as part of that, we're also expanding the curb bump out on the opposite side of Columbus Avenue. On Columbus Avenue, we are bumping out the curb and adding new street trees with permeable pavers and new street lights, bike racks, landscape planter beds. On Columbus Avenue, we have new landscape areas and we are bumping out the curb 5 feet. Park Place, we are bumping out the curb 5 feet with bike racks, landscape planter beds, benches, and I have the specific repair drawings that we can go over if there's any specific questions related to that. As part of the design of the sidewalks, we are widening all of the pedestrian ramps to be minimum 8 feet wide. So there's 8 by 5 foot level landings. And after speaking with the Disabilities Commission, we can confirm that we're not removing or affecting any accessible parking spaces in the public way. And then the third element that we are requesting approval for is our projection licenses for existing and proposed elements at the building. The first is a proposed canopy. And the canopy is a footprint of 184 square feet that extends 8.1 feet into the sidewalk, which is less than 2/3 of the sidewalk width. And it'll be internally drained and heat traced. And it sits 13.5 feet above the sidewalk. We also have a series of exterior uplights, sconces, and security cameras that we are requesting approval for. They're around the entire perimeter of the building, and there's a lot of them. The uplights, there are 59 total. Each one has a 2 to 3 foot square footprint into the public way, and in total, that's 162 square feet. They are 18.3 feet above the sidewalk. We're also requesting approval for exterior sconces. There's 51 total. Each of them is 1 square foot, and they will sit 8.3 feet above the sidewalk. And we have 5 security cameras, each 1.2 square feet, for a total of 6 square feet, and they are 13.7 feet above the sidewalk. And then the last component are the existing signs that are on the garage building. We have a large Motormart garage sign that extends 10.5 feet out into the sidewalk. It's a footprint of 27 square feet, and it is 19.6 feet above the sidewalk. There's also a smaller parking sign that extends 3.5 feet out into the sidewalk, for a total footprint of 6 square feet, 8.5 feet above the sidewalk. We have a parking lobby sign on Elliott Street, and that is 3 feet out into the sidewalk. It's a total of 4 square feet for the footprint, and it is 14.7 feet above the sidewalk. And then finally, on the corner of Columbus Avenue and Elliott Street, we have another parking sign that is 6 feet out into the sidewalk, a total of 10 square feet footprint, and it is 37 feet above the sidewalk. So now, if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. One quick clarifying question on the projections. There are a number of existing projections on the building for restaurants and other current tenants that were not in your plan. Are those all to be removed?
Correct, they're to be removed.
Okay. Question on the specific repairs. If you could speak a little bit to 2 things. One is the sort of the process that you've gone through around the specific repairs as it relates to the adjacent streets and sidewalk, and what the reviews that those have been through with other city departments and agencies. And then if you could talk to, in the condition that you are proposing, what the widths would be on the streets where the curb line is moving at the conclusion of this work that you're proposing.
Yes.
You want to answer the second part of that, and I can answer the first part?
Sure, Mike. We have coordinated with the BPDA to adjust the curb lines. We have looked. I can go to the streets where we are doing that. In most cases on Park Place and Elliott Street, we are bumping out the curb 5 feet, and that is still providing a minimum 20-foot width, 20 to 21-foot width on those streets. Columbus Avenue, we are bumping out 7 feet, and Columbus Avenue now is, in that area, is very wide, so 7 feet allows for the addition of street trees and the permeable pavers. And then Church Street is a small street on the west side of the building, and we are bumping out the curb 6 feet there, and that maintains a 20-foot wide or paved road with, from curb to curb. But I'll let Mike speak to the coordination that we've done.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Michael Flannery from Golson & Storrs. So, you know, when this project was initially proposed and went through a large project review, you know, we were contemplating, you know, minimal to maybe no changes on some of these sidewalks, Elliott and Park Place, focusing more on the Stewart, Columbus, and Church Street sides of the building. Right after New Year's 2023, this past January, we were engaged by staff from BTD and BPDA to look at our streetscape plan. Had a number of discussions, you know, received a lot of comments on different iterations, and you know, the feedback we got was that the city would benefit from expanded sidewalks on Park Place and Elliott. You know, we do have some abutters who have concerns about that. I want to be candid about that. And you know, we throughout the process have been in touch with those abutters. You know, going back to large project review phase, and you know, we're aware that they were going to have some concerns. So we, you know, we in fact put together a meeting directly between or among our team, city and BPDA staff, as well as some concerned abutters, to make sure that that feedback and concern was heard directly. You know, I'll let city and BPDA staff and the abutters who may be here speak for themselves, obviously, but you know, the outcome of those discussions was that it was determined that the expanded sidewalks you're seeing on these plans were still deemed to be beneficial to the city, and that's why, you know, we move forward with a proposal that reflects those discussions.
Thank you. So understanding that there's, you know, benefits from accessibility and other aspects of the sidewalk improvements, what is there anything you can speak to about review or analysis that was done in the context of those conversations with the abutters to look at any impacts to street width changes that they might have on driveways or loading docks of abutting properties? How has that been analyzed in the context of what is being proposed here?
Yeah, sure. And I believe Guy Buse on our team is the best person to speak to that. Guy, would you be able to speak to those questions?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. So back in July, well, early mid-year, we did some vehicle maneuvering out here and discussed various issues with 1 Charles, just focusing on Park Place and Elliott Street. And then recently, starting around November 1st, we did a series of vehicle maneuvering diagrams for the 1 Charles folks. So in and out of the garage, in and out of the porte cochere worked fine. There's not much difference in what's there today. In and out of the loading bay for the SU 30 size vehicle, which is the design vehicle for the 1 Charles building per the Transportation Access Plan Agreement, works good. We also tested an SU 36 that would be able to get in and out of that loading bay, and we showed that to work as well. The SU 36 would actually protrude from the loading bay because it's not deep enough. We showed vehicle maneuvers fire truck maneuver, for example, Boston ladder 45 foot, making that corner. A larger tractor trailer truck, 50, WB50 is what they're called, will not make the corner from Park Place to Elliott Street. And that is known at BTD, and BTD gave us direction to do this, to extend these curves. I think that covers that out here for vehicle maneuvering.
And Guy, we've had an opportunity to do that analysis with the abutters, is that correct?
Yeah, we sent that analysis to the abutters over the past couple of weeks. They've had a consultant on board that asked us to redo them with the current PIC plan, which was close to what we had before, but we redid it with the PIC plan that's present here.
Got it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that clarification on the process and what the intended changes are. I will stop asking questions and let other members of the commission speak. Folks, questions, comment?
I have a follow-up, Chief. Along that, what you just talked about with the impact of the sidewalks and the large vehicle access, did you look at impact on two things, ride-share vehicles accessing this area or bicycle traffic?
That's a bigger picture item. So along Stewart Street, there's a bicycle corridor that's been developed recently that's in place now. That was done for, I forget the address of building right across the street from Motormart Garage, installed that. And we're working with BTD to eventually come up with a plan along Columbus Ave. Along Park Place and Elliott Street, like many streets in the city, those are shared use streets with bicycles. Would you say? Oh, car share, yeah. So there are no car share activities along Park Place or Elliott Street. Along Church Street, we have 15-minute pickup drop-off zones for both mostly rideshare, taxi, and the occasional other pickup drop-off. We also have pickup drop-off or drop-off areas within the garage at the residential floors that can also be used by residents that are parking. So if you're coming from somewhere and you're actually parking in the garage as a resident, you can drop off a person up within the garage to get right into a lobby in the upper levels. And I believe any kind of ride share, well, One Charles, I would operate inside their Porte Cochere, which is fully accessible from Park Place, Elliott, and Charles Street.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering if the team could speak a little bit to the current condition of the sidewalks and what safety and accessibility improvements are being accomplished with this project.
Yes, I can answer that. Thank you, Sarah. In the cases where we are bumping up the curb line, we are reducing the crosswalk lengths. And as I mentioned before, all of the crosswalks all of the pedestrian ramps have been widened to be at least 8 feet wide, which is wider than what exists today. And there's sidewalks that are not ADA compliant now with cross slopes that are over 2%. So we're adjusting all of those to meet ADA, as well as an existing electrical vault that we're adjusting the cover to allow for ADA compliance.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the team for working with my department as well as Transportation Department and BPDA to ensure that accessibility both to visitors as well as residents of the area and pedestrian safety are at the top of the design criteria. I was wondering if we could also quickly go to Church Street and whether or not a raised crosswalk at that intersection was considered to promote pedestrian movements to the park and to increase safety to crossing Church Street.
Yes.
Ryan, I can actually speak this a little bit too. So, thank you for the question. The team did look at these crosswalks. Our concern about proposing raised crosswalks here, and one reason we're not is because we're concerned about interaction with the pickup drop-off, and having sort of two bumps on this short street where we do want this to be an efficient place that people can pick up from the building, drop off at the building, and then sort of get out of the way and turn down Columbus. We were worried about the restrictions on those operations that these two humps in the road would create for that operation. And I think we're concerned that that sort of additional element might actually have a negative impact on the safety of those crossings relative to keep them flat with the rest of the roadway.
And I'll add too, at the intersection with Columbus Avenue, that crossing is very wide now. It's not, in the proposed condition, we're teeing that off, so we're really narrowing that crossing to 20 feet wide.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, other questions? I have a couple of just follow-ups on some of the transportation stuff, in particular, the Park Place and Elliott Street. So this is really a question for Guy. In your turning movement analysis, I know that right now Park Place is signed as no parking on the entirety of the street. However, the side adjacent to 1 Charles is frequently used as a kind of informal parking area, often by commercial vehicles. And I'm curious whether in your turning movement analysis, what assumptions were made about the presence or absence of vehicles along that no parking curb line, and whether presence of vehicles there would impact the ability of a truck to successfully turn and then back up into the loading dock in a way that would be different in the new configuration versus how it is today.
Okay, so 1 Charles did mention that they occasionally have a vehicle that stops just shy of the porte cochere. I think this is mostly a trash truck. And we did do some vehicle maneuvers with a trash truck parked in that location. And cars can get around and make the corner at Elliott, and even an SU-36 coming down Park Place can still get around that truck and make a turn at Elliott Street. So Park Place will be 21 feet wide, which is plenty room for any vehicle to park on either side of that road, and another vehicle to get around it. I believe though that like a fire truck would not make that corner with a vehicle parked at the side up by the porte cochere. Yep. Right, so, that's basically an illegal move right now, or condition, since it's no stopping. But the vehicle that 1 Charles is talking about is a short-term situation where it's always a vehicle that has a person in it or nearby it in case of an emergency.
So I think that there's a couple of areas I would say of concern. There's the crosswalk zone that sits in between the loading dock for 1 Charles and the Porte Cochere. And that's, that is a crosswalk and a fire hydrant in a place where no vehicles should be parked or waiting at all. Right. I'm thinking a little bit further back up the street, up Park Place towards towards Stewart Street, excuse me. I guess the question is, what with a narrower cross section on the street, if vehicles are parked along that stretch, sort of in between the loading dock entrance for 1 Charles and Stewart Street, does that have implications for either vehicles accessing the loading dock, so a truck that maybe needs to pull forward and then back into the loading dock, or a fire truck trying to make the corner onto Elliott Street? I think we would not design for a scenario in which vehicles are actively blocking a crosswalk, right? That's an unacceptable condition at all times. We do sometimes, though, make accommodations for no parking zones that are do not pose a safety hazard or quite the same safety hazard if folks are using them as a temporary, stopping zone. So I'm thinking more about that area from the loading dock back to Stewart Street, where we do see, with some frequency, vehicles making short-term use of that space.
No, I have no concern about vehicles back there. The loading bay will still be accessible. Fire trucks will still be able to get around. Yes.
Okay, got it. That was the question that I was wondering about. And then I guess my second question, kind of related to all of this, is has the team reviewed these designs and its analysis with the Boston Fire Department? I know you mentioned that the ladder truck from nearby has been tested against these designs. Has Boston Fire had a chance to look at and respond to those at all?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know about, the fire department. If things work, the fire department usually doesn't get involved, and they all work. So I don't. The fire department likes 20-foot streets, so they can position their outriggers, and they want to make sure they can turn corners, and all that works here.
Okay. I will ask you to just, in between now and whenever your next hearing is, to make some time to just walk through these plans with fire and confirm that these are compliant with their requirements and specifications for a street like this, and that they're comfortable with the turning movement analysis as it relates to their larger vehicles.
Yep, can do. Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, any additional comments or questions? We're going to open it up, and we will start with PIC staff, and then I think I see William Moose from the Boston Transportation Department has his hand raised, so we'll go to William, and then we will go to members of the public. But first, commissioners, anything else? Okay. PIC staff, Todd?
I will gladly see the floor to William.
All right, William, take it away.
Thank you very much. So I just wanted to also thank the project team, and I can say there's been a lot of back and forth with BTD staff, with BPDA staff, with Commissions for Disability staff on the design of all the sidewalks around the site. There's a lot to like here. I also want to thank them for the curb extension on Columbus Ave that will house a future Blue Bike station that I'm sure will get a lot of use at this location. And I think it's just important for us to highlight again that we did do due diligence when we were asking for the widening of Elliott and Park Place, that these are very standard roadway dimensions. We made sure that turning movements work. A good thing that the widening on Elliott in particular accomplishes is that it creates an accessible pedestrian path of travel completely outside the presence of an electrical vault that's there. Even though the vault will be reconstructed, we all know that vaults are difficult to maintain. It'll be great to have that additional path of travel there. We also looked at existing and projected volumes on these streets. It's important to note that the project is actually substantially reducing the amount of parking on site, and the volumes on Elliott are quite light. In the AM peak, there was a single vehicle going eastbound. In the PM peak, it was 11 vehicles going eastbound. So we feel comfortable that with the widened sidewalks, these streets will continue to function as intended, as these dimensions work on so many other streets around the city. I did want to, though, go back to Sarah Leung's request for the raised crosswalk at Church. I agree that actually at Columbus and Church, the substantial sort of narrowing of that crossing, the teeing off that intersection will do a lot of good to slow vehicle turns, improve the safety of that crossing. I think on Stewart Street, where we have somewhat higher speeds, I think it would be beneficial to have a raised crossing coming from Stewart to Church. I believe that's what's being shown on Park Place, so I think it's consistent with what we're showing at Park Place. And I think I'll highlight too that these are good for accessibility as well, right? It keeps reduces puddling issues at the bottom of ramps, helps keep the crossing clear of snow, and snow melts in the winter. So I think that would be a very positive addition to this. But yeah, that's all I have to add at this point. Thank you.
All right. So I do see, before we get to other members of the public, we do want to cover the city agencies represented here. And I do see Sam Roy from the Boston Planning and Development Agency has her hand raised as well. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and after which we'll take questions and comments from members of the public. Again, as a reminder, if you do wish to speak, at the bottom of your Zoom window, you'll see a reactions button. If you click that, you'll see a raise hand feature. So feel free to put yourself in line and raise your hand, and we will call on folks in the order that they raise their hand. But with that, I'll turn it over to Sam from the BPDA.
Thanks, Chief Frank, and thank you for the commission for this opportunity. I just wanted to provide the additional context that the BPDA reviewed these proposed changes to the specific repairs plans in tandem with the Boston Transportation Department, as well as the Disabilities Commission. As well, BPDA Transportation was represented, but BPDA landscape architects as well as urban design colleagues were also involved in the review alongside the Disabilities Commission. So a number of different city agencies and quasi-state agencies were part of this review. In addition to what William said, we also were taking note from the Boston Complete Streets principles, which are our design guidance aimed to improve the quality of life for the residents of Boston, and this approach places pedestrians, bicycles, and transit users on equal footing with motor vehicle users. Per the Complete Streets guidelines, Park Place and Elliott Street can be really classified as downtown mixed-use streets. To William's point, there are very low volumes, especially on Elliott Street in the eastbound direction. And the dimension for this typology, the preferred sidewalk width is 18.5 feet. Although we can't achieve that given our limited dimension, and also the preservation of the existing building limits our ability for sidewalk setbacks resultant in pedestrian easements, we are able to offer this change with the existing right-of-way, and really right-sizing our travel lanes to slow speeds, encourage more multimodal transportation, and redefine and remove the delta between where we're at and our vision for this street typology. With all that said, I again, would like to thank the project team for their work on this and for being thought partners in rectifying this situation, as well as my city colleagues. And lastly, to Sarah and William's request for the raised crosswalks, it would also be great to explore that and the concern of that in between now and the next hearing. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much. So we will go to public comment now. I know there's been a few comments in the chat, which are, all recorded and, part of the record for this. And certainly I know the commissioners are reading those. But if you want to ask a question that you would like to have somebody respond to, please do that by raising your hand and asking it here. So we will start with our first raised hand, Alexandra, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, but Zun Corridas Lull. Please go ahead.
That was pretty good. Thank you. Thank you to the commission for allowing me to speak. I am Alexandra. I am an abutter. I reside at 1 Charles Street South, which is right directly next door to the Motor Mart Development Project. I am also a member of the board, and I am speaking on behalf of our community, or I will be one of the speakers on behalf of the community. With me, joining me in this forum today are several board members, our management team, our traffic expert, as well as many members of the 1 Charles community. We have concerns, and these were obviously brought up earlier from the developer. The project was approved in 2019, and our previous board worked closely with the development team, the Motor Mart development team, and we came to an agreement, and everything worked out great. As it was noted in the presentation, early in 2023, the city did make some changes and required changes to the streetscape. We were informed about this change by the Motor Mart development team. We were not informed about it from the city, and nor was there a public forum for us to be able to attend to discuss this. And during this process, it is true that the Motor Mart team has spoken with us. And in fact, I think that they have tried to be really good neighbors by telling us about these changes that were coming. However, we did voice many concerns, and their position was the following, was that this is our issue with the city rather than with them. And we want to maintain this friendly and a good relationship with our neighbors. So we are bringing this concern to the city to inform that the process, the way it did take place, and all of the sharing, it wasn't it came at a delayed cost to us. For example, the turning analysis was just provided to us last week. So our traffic expert didn't have enough time. Well, he's given us his opinion, but he's also on, so if there were questions, you can ask him directly. But there are issues with these analyses. For example, some of these studies, they don't include trucks that do come to our property. They don't, it's assumed that they're not going to come, but that's not the case. We have camera footage rolled to show exactly how the property is used. So when it's stated that, well, there's only 11 cars going through Elliott Street, that's simply not accurate, because the position of Park Street or Park Place and Elliott Street is where our garage is. We have a lot of concerns, and many of them have not been properly addressed. And what we would like to do is have a public forum so that we can address this and we can work together as a community to find an amicable and a solution that works for all. We understand that the city's needs have changed. We have to be cognizant of different pedestrian issues or disability issues. We embrace that. We are part of the community too, so we want that, but we want it to not cripple our operations. And this is the most critical aspect of this change, is that the assumption is that it won't change. Nothing is going to be affected, but that is simply, we want to show you, and we've asked, we would like for you to come to our property and show you exactly the concerns. Part of them are the entry and exits to the garage. As I mentioned, the turning analysis that was provided does not include trucks that do come to our our, our property access in and off of, for the Charles Street, our loading dock is on Park Place. Our loading dock is not just for our building, but it is also for the commercial units that come there. The curbside and the double parking on the streets. We expect that that once this development is up, there will be retail there, and there will be another restaurant there, and they will bring their Ubers and their ride shares to us. We already had an issue with these. Now having the 200 some units on top of the Motor Mart development team also sharing this street to exit and turn around or cut through is going to be more traffic, and we expect that this traffic will spill over into Stewart Street. There are other issues such as the drainage. This expanded sidewalk will cover drains that empty to the ocean. This area is we haven't seen a slope study. We haven't seen a lot of things that we feel are a concern to our daily operations. And apart from that, we are aware that the city is proposing a narrowing of Charles Street South. So at this point, entry and exit into our building will be constrained by narrowing of streets from the front and the back. These are our only access points. So we're asking that a public hearing, a public forum be allowed, as in all other cases. We're also asking that you come. We're happy to share with you our cameras, and so that you could see our streets in action. And we're happy to walk through this. We want to work together as a team. We really do want to work together as a community and find an amicable solution that works for all. And I hope that the rest of the management team can join me as well. But those are the major concerns of the building, and we respectfully ask that you take those into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. Next up, we have Jim's iPad. Jim, if you could introduce yourself and go right ahead.
Sure, thank you very much. My name is Jim Connors. I live at 1 Charles Street, and my unit faces the transportation building on Stewart Street. I must say, first of all, thank you for recognizing me. Thank you for the process. I'm a little concerned at some of the answers you've got. I'm a little concerned that you've gotten what's happening today or yesterday, probably during slow periods, but you're not really getting what's going to happen in the future. Watching what's going on with the process on the sidewalks, it appears to me as if the train has left the station so quickly. I'm not sure if the residents of 1 Charles have been run over, if we're still walking to the platform, or if we've been totally forgotten. My biggest fear is the law of unintended consequences. There's 300 units, there's over 450 people here. When the bike lanes and Stewart Street was reconfigured, I cannot tell you how much the sound increased. Sound pollution is real. So now we are taking a road that is narrow, that is used by all sorts of trucks, ride share, who knows who's parking there, when they're parking there. We're going to congest it more, and here we go again with the noise. Access has changed, our quality of life has decreased. I just think we need to do something, even if the only thing, since the train is leaving the station, we can do is make sure this is done last when the project is done. But I feel as if we are being run over. Thank you for recognizing me. Thank you for taking my comments.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, Ryan St. Marie.
Thanks so much, everyone. To echo some of the points that Alexandra has made and Jim has made so far, and we also have our engineering consultant, David Black, who will speak after me as well. We do have a number of concerns that we're addressing here today. This has really been the first public forum that we've been able to have where members of our community can really see what is happening and what the proposals are. We've shared all the information that we've received, however much we have, but our only opportunity to really discuss things so far has been with the BPDA, which has been promoting their agenda this whole event. We've reached out to members of the Public Works Department, the Mayor's Office, the City Councilor's Office, Department of Transportation. We've really not been involved in those meetings whatsoever. So we're really looking for the opportunity to speak with those firsthand and not getting what their interpretation is from the BPDA and from the Motor Art developers. We're happy to work with this process, and in fact, that's what we want. We want to be a part of the planning process. There were a number of proposals that were presented to us back in May from the Motor Mart developers that would accomplish many of these goals and make the streets safer, but they chose to go with this one, which would be the most detrimental to our operations. And I think that we'd like to be part of that planning process and like to find a win-win situation for all of us. I do want to ask, with that traffic study that was referenced before, when was that done? Can you provide the specific dates? Because I think a lot's changed since that report was manifested, and I'd like to see some of the updated numbers. Again, we've asked for pedestrian studies too, to see what the benefit that this widening of the sidewalk will ultimately have on this area of the community. It's a very minimal traffic area, mostly by our residents coming in and out of the building. So is the cost benefit there that will have a safety effect that will be more beneficial than the restriction that we're going to be having? And then is there any other ways that we can be part of this process so that we can have something going forward? We've also, it's part of the record now, there was a letter that was sent from Councillor Flynn asking for continuance on this matter so that we can properly address all the concerns with those relevant government agencies. So I hope that we can reference that letter as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Before we continue, does anybody on the project team or BTD, BPDA want to speak to the question about when traffic counts were conducted and what data set was used for that?
I could quickly weigh in on that, Yasha. Just that those counts were done pre-pandemic. They're from the PNF, the project notification form, if I'm not mistaken. They're peak hour counts. So when I say there were 11 vehicles going eastbound, I'm saying that was the highest number of vehicles counted in a single hour. There are more than 11 vehicles, but per hour, very low volume going eastbound on Elliott Street. That's the point that I was trying to make. And pedestrian volumes are higher than vehicle volumes on both of these streets, per also the counts, also pre-pandemic. It's important to note too that while traffic volumes have, in many places, sort of returned more or less to normal, volumes are not necessarily higher now than they were pre-pandemic. So we don't expect there to be like a huge variation from what those pre-pandemic counts were. And I think what is important to note is that with the addition of several hundred units of new housing, we would expect to see pedestrian volumes increase. So that's, already pedestrians are the majority users of these streets. We expect there to be more volume on these streets in the future. So I think that's important context as well.
Thanks, William. Next up, we have David Black. Go ahead. David, I think if you're speaking, you are muted. We cannot hear you. All right, I'm not hearing David, so we will come back to him and give him another opportunity to speak in a minute.
I'm sorry.
There you go. David.
I'm sorry about that, folks. I joined the meeting earlier on my laptop and then it crashed, so I'm now trying to manage this on my handheld phone. I'm David Black. I'm a retired transportation engineer with over 40 years experience. For the last 20 years, I worked with VHB. So I've been involved in a lot of work like this. The One Charles board approached me to review what the proposal was here. My first look at it was back in, I think it was May, when there were several alternatives on the table for changes to the streets. And obviously, Park Place and Elliott Street are the the ones that are most concerned to 1 Charles. More recently, we were informed that a specific plan had been chosen, the one that you've been reviewing today. And over the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to engage with Guy Bussa and exchange turning move analyses and things like that, which has been very helpful. Alexandra, I think, did a great job of summarizing the position, but I just will add a few footnotes to what she has already said. I think the turning analysis does show that most vehicles can make turns. I think the only one that Guy called out was a large tractor trailer turning the corner from Park Place to Elliott Street, and that would be precluded by the new design, and perhaps some interference with a ladder fire truck if there is service vehicles or parking happening on Park Place. I think my overall view of the turning analysis is that it is very tight. And I think what we need to do here is to reflect the reality, which is that there is a lot of activity here. These are not high volume streets, but there is a lot of activity. And I think you only need to go out there, not necessarily during the traffic peak hours, but at other times of day when the car rental is active. The vehicle that regularly, I think almost every weekday, parks on Park Place is the recycling truck for 1 Charles. And it can be there for up to an hour while it does the recycling on street. That's how the recycling is done for the building. I know that these 2 streets have been referred to as downtown mixed-use streets, which I suppose they really are, but I think it's a mischaracterization of what these streets do in the overall network. These are much more akin to service streets. They're not used by a lot of through traffic. The volumes are low. I don't honestly think there's any need to try and reduce speeds because you just cannot speed on these streets. So I think we're looking for the opportunity to join the dialogue on this and try and come up with a solution that recognizes some of these realities. The double parking on Elliott Street is extensive. The parking on Park Place today is more commercial vehicle oriented, but it ignores the fact that there are 2 retail spaces there. And if you think back to the days when Legal Seafoods was in operation, there was significant parking or drop off and pick up on that side of the street, which will be eliminated by this. Well, I say it will be eliminated if you assume that if there's no drop off, people won't park, but the reality is that they will. And indeed, with the truck sizes that service 1 Charles, the loading dock is indeed designed for a box truck, but the building has many more larger vehicles which come and by necessity have to stop on Park Place because there's nowhere on Charles Street to stop. So those are just some footnotes, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Next up, we have Ken Weiss. Ken, you're muted.
Good morning to the group. My name is Ken Weiss. I live at 1 Charles. I serve as president of the board of directors of the 1 Charles Condo Association. I just want to make certain we are a bike-friendly community and we are a pedestrian-friendly community. In fact, I personally walk 5 to 10 miles a day in Boston when I'm there. In addition to that, I never drive in Boston. So if I'm going anywhere from Lansdowne Street to the north and the south end, I walk. So I certainly understand the desire of the city to improve walking conditions and walking opportunities. Our community is also very sensitive to those who have physical challenges. Our building is very mindful of that and makes every effort within the confines of our community to make certain we're sensitive to every individual that might be in our building or visit our building. Our challenge in this last few months has been the deaf ear toward our concerns about the unintended consequences of improving pedestrian access and those with handicap challenges access, and the unintended consequences to the safety and the access to our building and throughout the community that surrounds the Motor Mart. And I think this is an incredibly important issue that's being overlooked in the interest of trying to satisfy a city objective of improving pedestrian safety, pedestrian access, and potentially pedestrian safety, but at the expense of other forms of access to our building. And in particular, I want to repeat, I am very, very challenged by the proposal in terms of fire and rescue access, not only to our property, but to other places within the general community in and around this Motor Mart project. We've had an incredibly, I worked with the Motor Mart developers when we first were approached by them. It was an incredibly amicable relationship. It has continued to be an amicable relationship, but it appears that the city is trying to now impose on us and them some new standards that are a wonderful objective, but not being carefully thought through of, again, the unintended consequences. And with that, I defer to the crowd.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have John Walter.
Thank you, members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd just like to address a few things. Well, first, I'm the Director of Operations for One Charles, and one of the concerns, or one of the many concerns we have with the narrowing of the streets, with respect to the gentleman from Boston who had mentioned that the traffic study wouldn't increase drastically from the last parking. Pre-pandemic, one thing we have learned pre-pandemic and traffic now, ride shares have increased dramatically, and I think it would be unrealistic to think that when a restaurant goes into the former Legal Seafoods, that ride shares wouldn't sit and wait for their customers to come out of that restaurant. That delay is a realistic delay. The other concern I have is being in the operations part of this building. We experience a great many trucks trying to enter our loading dock, and sometimes those trucks they wait for one another, and those trucks, and I'm not sure the traffic study reflects this, those trucks can sometimes line all the way down from Park Place, Elliott Street to Stewart Street. And I don't think, and again, with respects to the turn study that was done, I don't think that was taken into consideration the amount of loading of commercial trucks waiting to get in, waiting their turn to get into the loading dock. I think the turn analysis maybe did it limited, and again with respect, but I think maybe the turn analysis was limited and did their maneuvering based on one or two trucks. However, the loading dock commercial trucks, we have a very busy area, and those could line up from garbage trucks to moving trucks to retail space trucks, and they back up and up. And I feel like the turn study didn't take into account the amount of traffic. Maybe we don't get the Elliott Street Park Place doesn't get heavy traffic passing by, but we do get heavy commercial loading dock truck traffic.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there. Was that the conclusion of what you wanted to say?
No, that was it. Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Good. All right, I do not see any other hands raised. Oh, there's Gary Feldman. Go right ahead.
Yes, I wasn't I'm a resident of 1 Charles, and I wasn't intending on saying anything, but I just happened to look out the window, and a very large truck was pulling into the loading zone of the building, and it used as far as I could tell, every inch of available street to do that turn. Now, I don't know how big that truck was. It looked very large, but at least this is one case where I think it would have had to go up on the sidewalk if the sidewalk was any larger. That's all I wanted to add.
All right, thank you very much. Jim, you have your hand up again. Go ahead.
Just a quick point. I won't take up too much of your time. Thank you very much. Something that concerns me greatly is I just heard the traffic count was done pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic was long before Stewart Street was reconfigured, adding bike lanes, taking away lanes, and Stewart Street now is parking lot. It may not be right now, I'm not looking out the window, but the traffic volume has increased, the congestion has increased so much, and to reference a study that was done before that really is not right. Thank you for your time again, Joshua, appreciate it.
Yep, appreciate this. Okay, I think we're at the conclusion of public comment, seeing no other hands. Is there anyone from the project team, BTD, BPDA, who'd like to speak in response now to any of the comments here, or any additional questions or comments from members of the commission? Okay, so seeing none, here is kind of some quick reflections. I appreciate everybody's comments, and it's clear that there are a number of concerns that residents of 1 Charles have raised in relationship to this project. I think, some of the things that have been brought up, questions of, fire department turns and things of that nature. I think we have a opportunity to independently evaluate in the context of by virtue of the ability of the project team to speak with the fire department. And so that is one takeaway that we have here. I think that there is I've heard and seen in the chat a number of general comments about, congestion and increase in traffic volumes in the area, or perceived increase in traffic volumes in the area. It doesn't sound like there are more up-to-date traffic counts to confirm that. I guess a question that I want to ask in relation to that of the project team is, are any of the changes that you're making reducing the carrying capacity of the roads around the project site? So are you reducing travel lanes with any of the modifications that are being proposed here? This is for the project, the motor market components.
Yeah, this is Guy Busachechka. So no, the project is eliminating a parking lane to widen the Columbus Ave sidewalk. We are not eliminating any travel lanes on Elliott or Park Place or Stewart Street. Church Street parking is eliminated on both sides, but we keep the single travel lane. So no, we are not reducing any travel lanes whatsoever out here.
Got it. Okay, that's a helpful clarification and just a useful data point in all of this. I mean, I think the thing that is, that I know that there's been quite a bit of exchange of letters and some sharing of engineering analysis, but, I'm hearing clearly that there's some folks in the 1 Charles community who feel like the process by which some of these changes have been introduced into the context of the project has had insufficient discussion or insufficient opportunity to have some back and forth about some of the specific concerns that we've heard voiced today. I do think, and this is sort of speaking from my perspective as a commissioner, the element here that feels sort of most salient in terms of the scope of the PIC, which is, we're not primarily concerned with the broader, as the PIC, the broader traffic implications in the region, but we do look at the way in which changes to street impacts the flow of vehicles, impacts turns, impacts the functioning of the right-of-way. There's clearly some outstanding questions that relate to the way in which large vehicles and trucks in particular use Park Place and Elliott, and whether or not the proposed changes here would impact the functioning of 1 Charles's loading dock or the general operations of the building. So in recognition of the fact that these are clearly questions that what we have heard as PIC are in need of additional, that the residents of 1 Charles and the building feel that there's a need for some additional discussion on these. What I would like to ask the project proponents is to arrange for, in the coming weeks, a meeting that could be attended by the 1 Charles, members of the 1 Charles community who have concerns, along with BTD and DPDA, to have an additional opportunity for a deeper dive discussion. I think it would be helpful to come into that meeting. We've heard a sort of very specific list of concerns. I think it'd be helpful to come into that meeting for project proponents and frankly for folks in the city who have been involved in shaping the dimensions of this, to come into that meeting with some thoughts in response to the concerns that have been heard here, to have a bit more of an opportunity to have an exchange of perspectives on this. I think we've had a bit of that here today, but the nature of PIC hearings are often not well structured for intensive back and forth dialogue and for doing sort of comparative review of analysis and things of that nature with a lot of public participation. So I do think, just in terms of helping ensure that that changes that have happened to the Motormark project after the the initial Article 80 process, which of course had its own substantial public input phase, that there is an opportunity for some of that dialogue to happen. I think establishing a meeting, we can discuss offline about the best forum for how to do this. I'm not sure I'm prepared to prescribe a specific place for this, but I think if we can arrange that and have an opportunity for a little bit more extensive dialogue between the project team, the city, and the residents who have voiced their concerns here today, that would certainly help me as chair for the PIC to feel like there has been an opportunity for some of the back and forth that I think folks feel like would have been missing for this aspect of the project. So is that something that the proponents are willing to undertake in the coming weeks?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we're just speaking on behalf of the team. We're happy to schedule that kind of discussion, and I, speaking for everybody, I think we're open to doing that as soon as all the necessary people can get together.
Okay. We would appreciate that. We would appreciate hearing sort of some of the readouts from all perspectives on this issue coming out of that meeting, and that will be helpful to us. I think the question of your public hearing, we would of course like that meeting to take place before your public hearing. I know we do have a holiday week coming up next week. Do we think that December 7th is a reasonable time for a public hearing, that you'll have had that opportunity, or would it be better to schedule this for our next PIC hearing on December 21st, I believe? Is that correct, Todd?
Yes.
We would prefer to try to keep that December 7th date. It is a holiday, but there is also an extra week to accommodate that. So I think we can have this meeting well before that December 7th date and be prepared for December 7th. And if that turns out not to be the case, then we can adjust.
Okay. We will plan to see you on the 7th, and please keep in touch with PIC staff about how this is going. And we know that we'll hear from folks at 1 Charles as well, but hopefully this will be an opportunity for everyone to establish a bit more of a shared set of facts about this, and in addition, to see if there's alterations or changes that would lead folks to more comfort with this plan. And in addition, the two items that I had written down as follow-ups were, one, to have that consultation with the Boston Fire Department, and two, to do a little bit more of an exploration of the possibility of a raised crosswalk, particularly at Church and Stewart, to look at whether that can be accommodated in the project for pedestrian accessibility and safety there. All right. Todd, anything else that you have that we want to highlight before we move on?
I was on this meeting.
No, I think we are all set.
All right, excellent. So thank you both to the project team, city staff, and members of the public in the One Charles community who came. This is helpful. We appreciate your input. This is a public forum. We're here to be a place where some of this stuff can get discussed, and so appreciate everybody showing up to participate in that. And we will plan to have you on the agenda for December 7th and look forward to hearing some readouts from the meeting to come on this conversation. All right, moving on to the last item on our agenda, which, find it again, new business number 4, 59 to 63 Belgrade Avenue, Pinehurst Street, West Roxbury, specific repairs on a petition by 63 Belgrade LLC. Would the petitioners please introduce themselves, their affiliations, and give us an overview of the project and what you're proposing to do here with these particular actions. I will also just repeat, since I know there are some members of the public here to speak on this project as well, once the presentation is complete, we'll have an opportunity for the commission to ask questions, after which we will open it up for public questions and comments. If you do wish to speak on this item, please click the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom window and then click raise hand. And when we get to that portion, we will call on folks in the order that they raise their hands. And with that, I will turn it over to the project team to introduce what is being proposed.
Thank you. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. This is Michael Ford. I'm part of the 63 Belgrade LLC development team. Good morning, PIC Commission members. The proposed is a small project review, which was approved by BPDA and ZBA in August of 2022. The project is a 31-unit apartment building located at 63 Belgrade Ave near Rosendale Square. The apartments include 25 market rate units plus 6 inclusionary development policy units. A few other merits to our project include financial contribution to the Blue Bikes program, some specific repairs along with a new crosswalk across Belgrade Ave, a new crosswalk across Pinehurst Street, which will include some pedestrian safety, ADA compliant, and traffic calming measures. Also includes replanting of several dead or diseased trees that are in front of the property. Additionally, we are adding bike racks for resident and public use in the front of the proposed building and paint striping for the bus stops on Belgrade Ave. Also some signage that will improve this busy stretch of Belgrade. I'm here with Guillermo Beltran from Struhan Engineering, who is going to explain the design elements, signage, and paint stripings of the PIC plan. So I thank you for your consideration and look forward to answering any of your questions. So Guillermo, if you would please take over.
Hi everyone, Guillermo Beltran here from Struhan. Can I share my screen by any chance?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So can you see the plan?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we're proposing a new sidewalk along the lot frontage. It's gonna be like 11 feet approximately. We're proposing 4 post and ring racks for the bicycle parking right here. We're proposing painted curb extension with flex post here to reduce the intersection and create a shorter crossing with a width of 24 feet. We're proposing a pedestrian crosswalk with on Belgrade Ave, which is this one, and these pedestrian crossings include high visibility ladder-style crosswalks and the addition of compliant pedestrian curb ramps equipped with tactile warning strips. This one here, here, and here. And we're proposing 2 bus stop boxes on Belgrade Ave. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. If you have any questions, more than happy to answer them.
Commissioners, questions?
Thank you so much.
I think my only question is, why is this in paint? Right,
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Why is this not a constructed element?
Sorry, Amy, I think we had a hard time hearing you with your question. Could you?
Yeah, why is it not constructed? Why is this bump out in paint?
Amy, if it's okay, I can respond to this as the planner who reviewed this. It was obviously our intent and hope to tee this off in granite curb and concrete, and you know, just the size of this project and the substantial cost of moving catch basins and that sort of thing to complete this work, you know, kind of made it cost prohibitive. So, you know, we were essentially looking to, you know, have the pedestrian and accessibility improvement of getting a crossing to serve this well-utilized bus stop here, and then really as a gesture to support the, you know, the more modest scale of the project, to do the safety improvements in temporary striping, because the cost was quite substantial based on the estimates of like moving catch basins and things of that nature.
I say this only because, right, like there's a lot of desire for crosswalks out here. There aren't any. This will be amongst the first. It connects a bunch of bus stops and BPS bus stops. And a lot of them have been told to wait for this. So I think that the expectation is that what they are waiting for will be a constructed improvement and not one done in striping.
All right, hearing no response to that, I think it is probably worth a little bit of offline conversation between BTD and the project proponents, as well as the planning team on what would or would not be feasible here. I certainly share Amy's concern about this being a long sought and highly valuable crossing location, and wanting to make sure that it delivers on that potential for the community, but am also sensitive to what is the appropriate scale of a project to ask of a smaller development. So I think some additional conversation there is warranted. Sarah, were you? Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, I just wanted to ensure that the proponent received our comments from yesterday, and so if those changes could be incorporated, kind of pending conversations with the transportation department about the scale of the project, we want to ensure that when this is deployed, it is done right. Thank you.
And Sarah, I did receive your comments, and our engineering team is looking at those, along with some comments that came from Jill Zick for some minor changes in the paint striping. So those issues will be addressed. Just wanted to get all of the changes before we go back to the drawing board, because there's been several renditions, several different versions of this plan. So we've been at it for quite some time. Just wanted to try to get it moving forward. I'm a little confused as far as having to, I do understand Amy's comments, but this is something that we've been discussing over like the last 3 months as far as, opting not to grant a curb at the foot Pinehurst Street. So I just wanted to get some more clarification on Amy's comments, just to understand, because again, this is something that we've been discussing for quite some time, and I'm not sure why this is coming up at the hearing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, right, like, I understand how the conversation progressed and how we got to here. I think my point is more that there's a lot of abutters and community members who have been told to wait for this, and they are not aware that this discussion has happened and that these things will show up as paint and flex posts rather than constructed elements. So I think that, right, like, as this is something that is being anticipated and it is not going to yield what is expected, that there should be an amount of conversation that happens to make sure that this will satisfy the desire of the community to have a safe crossing here, but not have you guys reconstruct, right, the world to get it there. And so my comment is more that, right, like, I understand how you've progressed here, but I don't think that that's been communicated beyond right here, right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as the PDA proviso is concerned, there was, it was very non-specific. So, I do understand that the public does have some expectation. But we've basically said yes to everything, until this point where we were talking about moving 2 catch basins, which is going to cost us, well over $100,000, not to mention the time with, going back and forth with Boston Water and Sewer and the permitting and everything else. That was just going to delay construction of this project even further. We're willing to work with you, and hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement on this. We'd like to get this approved. Can we maybe talk next week and try to get on the next docket?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the right, like, if this is not going to come back as a constructed element, then I think it's more about socializing that to make sure, right, like, that what we approve here is then known and expected by the community as well. So, right, that's, I think, the piece of this that's missing. If this is what's happening and that's not going to change, then I think that it's more about communicating back to the abutters.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right, appreciate folks, engaging in that conversation, and I don't think this issue has to prevent you from coming back on the docket for a public hearing, but this is just something to make sure that we are, as Amy said, one, aligned within the city and with the development team about what is appropriate here, and two, that those, because this is of broader neighborhood interest as a transportation improvement than some of the typical things we see as a specific repair. I think there is a communication element of this that we just have to make sure we, the city, are supporting the project on in letting folks know where this is going.
Okay.
All right, commissioners, any other questions or comments? Okay, PIC staff, and then we'll open it up. I see Chris Bratzis has her hand raised, but Todd, anything you want to add first?
No, Sarah mentioned this and Mike touched on it as well. The plans will need to be updated in the next 3 weeks to address a certain number of comments which have come in relatively recently. So we'll expect to see some not groundbreaking, but notable changes on here at least.
All right, Chris, go right ahead.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone again. So I obviously welcome, so just to let you know that I'm representing St. Nathaniel's at 39 Belgrade Avenue. And just from a general conversation of what we've seen, especially post-COVID, because I now sit on the board post-COVID, is that we have a number of, we have schools, we have children in the area, and a large elderly population as well. So adding more safety features, bumps, and crosswalks along Belgrade to slow down traffic is great. There's a general area between, I think, this project down to Rosendale Square that Yash and his team are actually working with us and have visited the site. But one of the other items that I would like to have some discussion about is what, not just the safety, but the maneuvering of coming in and out of the parking garage. And from what I understand, it was, that's a little bit tight. And like the project that's across the street from the church, there's maneuverability issues in that parking garage that throws a lot of traffic, double parking, especially with double parking, what we're seeing. And because the maneuverability in that parking garage is tight, there's a lot of overflow onto Belgrade for parking. So with this building, and then also with 55, 57, we're afraid that, the safety is going to become a challenging proposition for folks crossing the street. But with the double parking, with the Ubers, et cetera, it'll make the stretch of corridor on Belgrade more unsafe, even with a crosswalk potentially. And so I'd love to see what these revised blueprints look like with maneuverability in and out of that parking space, and how this proposed building is working to accommodate the Ubers and the food deliveries.
Thank you. I think the Emerald can speak to the parking, because I believe we do have where the existing funeral home was, the Folsom Funeral Home, which is the property site. There were some parking spaces in the front that were limited to 15-minute parking. So I'm not sure if that. I guess Guillermo can comment on that. Any changes there as far as parking is concerned.
Yeah, we're proposing a no parking zone here. I think it's 20 feet to the west of the driveway entrance, of the parking entrance, to allow queuing space for residents and accessing the entrance. That's what we're proposing in terms of parking.
So I'm sorry, is the proposed driveway now to the right of the building or to the left of the building?
Yeah,
it's to the right. To the right as you're facing.
Right side.
Because prior drawings had the parking garage to the entrance to the left of the building.
I don't think we have any plans showing that, right, Michael?
No, there's, we eliminated one, so right now we had two curb cuts, one on the left as you're facing the building, one on the left, one on the right. We're retaining the one on the right and eliminating the one on the left. And I also might note that there's going to be a light and a little device at the end of the driveway to alert people that if there's a car approaching from the driveway.
So just so we understand, so the driveway is proposed at 10 feet, and it is the sole driveway for the building. How many parking spaces are in this building?
22.
How many?
22.
22, okay. So this would, at 10 feet, right, it can't accommodate cars moving in both directions. So the intent here is that if a car is approaching to turn into the driveway while a car is trying to exit the driveway, that the car approaching would wait in this sort of 20-foot queuing zone where parking is prohibited in front of on the approach to the driveway, wait for the exiting car to exit, get out onto Belgrade, and then they would turn in, and there would just be a sort of negotiation functionally between drivers about who's using the driveway in which direction. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And apologies if you said this already, but do we confirm that there was intended to be some short-term loading in front of the building?
Yeah, I'll have to let Guillermo speak to that because he has the plan right in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the plan. I don't see any notes for loading parking spaces.
Sorry, can I just get a couple of clarifications? Are you saying that there's no parking between that crosswalk to the driveway?
I think that's correct, right, Michael? We have no parking here in front of the lot?
From the crosswalk to the driveway?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
So there's absolutely zero parking in that stretch?
Yes.
And then what about the maneuverability of the underground parking lot? The radius for coming in and out of that driveway?
So I believe we just addressed that. There's a widening of the driveway, which is 8 feet. So that.
You cut out you cut out there as you started your response.
Sorry about that. I'm having some connectivity issues here.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, so the driveway is designed in a way that would allow cars to pass. It widens to 20 feet.
So, okay, so you're saying the entrance to the driveway is not 10 feet any longer. It looks like it's maybe 20 feet or 15 feet to get in and out of the driveway?
No, I'm sorry. The driveway is 10 feet wide, but it widens to 20 feet in the middle, so cars are able to pass each other. If somebody happens to be entering and exiting,
This is outside the public right-of-way. On the property itself, there is a widening of the driveway that happens so that cars entering and exiting at the same time have some negotiating room, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then what about in the building itself? Like what the turning radius within the parking garage?
Chris, I will say I'm happy to let them respond. I'm happy to let them respond to this, but I think just as typical matter, the scope of the PIC's authority is in the public right-of-way and not beyond, and so issues of sort of parking within a property and the layout of that property are typically adjudicated during the ISD and other development review processes that are associated with a project like this. But I'm happy to let them answer that question here, but it's a little bit out of our jurisdiction to make any determinations.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. The only reason why I'm asking, just to clarify, the only reason why I'm asking is that the initial plans that were presented to us had the driveway to the left of the building, and at that point, the maneuverability, entering, exiting, and within the footprint of the parking garage was problematic. And now what I'm seeing is that the driveway is to the right, and that's the reason why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, Chris, and I appreciate it. And I'm happy to, our office is actually right down the street from you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to sit down with you with a set of plans and go over all these details.
That's great. Thank you.
I'm still a little confused as to why there's no parking in front of the building. There is today, and there's no reason why there wouldn't be parking here. It certainly doesn't need no parking, right? Like if you would like a different regulation, that's a different question. But like, why are we just eliminating all parking in the middle of the building? And then again, not to reindict what's going on the property, but you have this 10-foot drive aisle, and what I saw in what was going off into the building was it remains 10. I get that it opens up, but that seems like it's rather far back. So like, it seems like you could be in a situation where I've entered from the street and I have somebody exiting, and how far do we have to go before we can pass each other rationally?
Right, and I think the situation is right now that there is signage there that limits the parking. It's not that there's no parking, but it's like stand-in parking only for the funeral home business that was there previous to us, and no one in transportation has requested a change to this. So if that's something that needs to be changed also with the new rendering, the new plan, that's something we could certainly address.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem like any parking, right, like that, we don't need to maintain the funeral home parking regulations once it's gone. We can certainly make it more practical for what it is being replaced with. So yeah, I think that and this can be between, right, abutters, and if you want something other than straight parking, but people should be able to stop here. There's no reason not to. They will anyway, but it might as well be legal.
Right. Yeah, so that's something that, again, we could just address in the new plan.
Okay. Yeah, if you can work with William and Amy on that between now and your next hearing, we do, of course, want to make sure that that crosswalk is appropriately daylighted, but to the extent that there is parking opportunities here. And we did hear a concern about short-term loading, Ubers, Uber Eats, that sort of thing. So, I think that the transportation folks that you'll talk to can help you think through sort of how that parking should be regulated, but let's get that adjusted for the next round of this. I see somebody with a 978 area code has their hand raised. Can you're welcome to speak. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, this is Lori Radwin, and I'm the coordinator of the Rosendale Coalition, and there was a lot of lively conversation when this building went to BPDA and ZBA. I'm thrilled to see safety measures on Belgrade. I hate crossing that street, so to have more safety is really terrific. And actually, these are questions from the ISD sheet. So when BPDA reviewed the parking entrance and the maneuverability within the parking lot itself, I believe BPDA referenced the Transportation Department review. And if I recall correctly, the discussion at ZBA, that was a concern, and I think it had to do with the sharp turn and then people having to pull into spaces, but that's from memory. So my first question is, was there a BTD review to improve that? And my second question, Yasha, Chief, I think this may be something you can help me with just informationally. When blue bike racks are placed, it makes it very difficult for someone to exit a passenger side, if they pulled up. And I know that for Chris's congregation, that it could be a really big issue in terms of letting people off for services. So how can blue bike racks be placed such that they don't impede a pedestrian getting out of the passenger side? So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I can answer that. So there's no plan. We actually agreed to a contribution to blue bikes. So there's no immediate plan to install any blue bikes at or near the property. I believe there's already one down in Rosendale Square. But we agreed primarily to contribute to the Blue Bikes program financially.
Lori, if you want to shoot me an email with the general question on Blue Bike station placement, I'm happy to run that to the Blue Bikes team so that they can respond back on how we think about placement of those stations. I know there is a lot of work that happens with the Disabilities Commission and looking at what is and isn't sufficient space for a station, but I'm happy to get you an answer to that.
That would be awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then the other piece, of course, was that ISD remark and just following up on it.
Amy, William, do either of you want to weigh in on that?
On the ISD remark, sorry, I don't think I have anything to add on that. I had my hand raised earlier just to make the exact same point that you made about appropriate daylighting of that crosswalk, but otherwise there's no reason why there couldn't be pickup drop-off or some other curb use between the driveway and that crosswalk. I think we have a few other comments on this striping plan that we'll get to them as well, minor things, but that we'll work with him on that in the meantime.
And just to ask of the project proponents, all appropriate zoning relief and ISD site plan approvals have been received, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm not sure that we have an answer for that first question, Lori, other than to say that whatever issues were raised in those processes were sufficiently resolved for the respective bodies to grant their approval for the site plan or for the project. I think, we are certainly concerned with here what is happening on the public right-of-way, and to the extent that there are aspects of the project which on the outside the public right-of-way that impact the public right-of-way, that is of interest to us. But I think, once we're sort of into the, the back, and the garage itself and the, the interior of the structure, that unless there's a direct implication for the public right-of-way, that it's really outside the purview of the PIC.
Understood. I thank you for the understanding of the boundary lines. I know the transportation department was supposed to review that, so maybe I can reach out another time and not take up any more PIC time. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions or comments, it sounds like there's a follow-up meeting that will happen with St. Nectarios and with Chris between the proponent and some discussion, some changes related to the parking regulations, as well as a little bit of follow-up on how we communicate about the crosswalk and the design at Pinehurst. And given all that and anything else I might have missed, will you be ready for your public hearing in 3 weeks on December 7th?
Yes, thanks.
All right, excellent. We will see you then and look forward to updates based on this conversation. And with that, we are at the end of our agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. All right, thank you all very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
you.
You too.
Thank you.